Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing for Friday, the 27th of October. I'm Derek Clark, and I'm joined this morning by Chris Jack. How are we getting on, Chris?
Not too bad, Derek, not bad. I've encouraging second half. If we can spend the next half hour avoiding talking about the first half, then that'd be smashing.
Yeah, it was certainly a game of, I'm going to say two halves, but the last 20 minutes, I think Rangers started playing football, but coming away with a 0-0 draw against Sparta Prague last night. I think most would have taken that before kick-off last night. I think everyone would have taken that by half-time. Such was the manner and the sort of one-way traffic that we were witnessing over there in the Czech capital. But Rangers, earning a point over there. Before we dissect the game in more detail, just a quick word for our podcast sponsors, MPH Group, the Scotland's award-winning family-run all-trade specialist covering all of mainland Scotland. And remember, every service you opt for automatically enters you into MPH's incredible holiday giveaway. You could win a 7-night stay at the luxurious 5-star Moon Palace Resort in Cancun, Mexico. And the all-important links are in the description below, folks. Do go and check them out if that's something you are thinking of. Right, Chris, where do we start with last night then? I think over the piece, a point away from home in Europe generally is a good result, especially after what we witnessed. Sparta Prague I was going to say no gimme, but they're a good side. They're top of the Czech league. They're the champions. They played some decent stuff in that first half. Rangers riding their luck at points. Jack Butland saving the blushes on a couple of occasions. John Lundstrom with a goal-saving tackle as well in that first half. It was wave after wave of attack at times. Second half, Rangers came back into it. I think the substitutions played a part in that. Danilo just looked more mobile than Cyril Dessers. He had that chance, of course, with the volley. The keepers did well to tip onto the bar. Sam Lammers with a glorious opportunity for me that the keeper saved. That's really how it ended. Rangers earning a point over there. So much to talk about with regards to the game. You've got your piece on the website this morning. In the main, though, Chris, it maintains that momentum under Philippe Clement, I think. There's only so much you can do with this group of players. And I think it bodes well heading into the weekend.
I think it was a really strange night all round, because we spoke twice in the videos yesterday, Derek, and said we'd probably take a point. A draw would be a good result. Half time, if someone had offered Clement 0-0, he would have shaken hands and went back to the team hotel quite happy. At the end of 90 minutes, you're thinking, no, Rangers had chances there. And this was a game that was there to be won. You mentioned the chances. Also, Lammers, had the one saved. Danilo, it's a really good fingertip from the keeper to put it onto the bar from a seemingly impossible angle. He did really well to get that one on target. A couple other half ones. Raskin had to make a running shot late on. So there's definitely things there that we are encouraging from Rangers. And when you look at those last 20 minutes or so in isolation, you think this was a game that was there to be won. But the first half was just way off it. Nowhere near good enough from Rangers. The manager spoke post-match about showing them the videos and the pictures of where those spaces were. And as he mentioned, and as a number of the comments I've mentioned already, if it hadn't been for Jack Butland, the game would have been done and dusted at half-time. That double save early on really set the tone for his night, and he's got this knack, which is certainly a good one to have, of just producing big saves at big moments in games. He's kept Rangers in it that first half, gave them something to hope for second half. The manager's clearly done his work at the break. In second half, it was slightly better, and I think it's the second half that people will focus on. I think it's the second half that people will try and take into the weekend, because hopefully that's a bit more like it. Hopefully the second half is a bit closer to the standard. As I wrote in my piece, it's on the website this morning, it was that game of two halves. It was a night of mixed emotions and mixed takeaways, because there was some good things there. There was a lot of bad things there, and it's trying to kind of find that middle ground. Now, the old cliche of not getting too high and not getting too low. I don't think we go OTT in terms of the negatives, but also wouldn't go too far the other way and really hype up the positives, because it did just come in a wee spell where Sparta were off it. So a very mixed night, but on the whole, it's a point away from home in Europe. It's another clean sheet. It keeps things ticking over for the manager. So they are definitely the positives to take from it.
Yeah, speaking afterwards, Clement was asked if he was happy with that point in the end, and he says, we started the second half much better. It's a game that was in the balance, first half for Sparta, second half for us. If you look at the data, the chances are equal and we had more shots on target. It could have been a win for us. It could have been a win for them had they taken their chances in the first half, but I'm happy with the reaction we showed in the second half. It has been a special week because we lost 3 left fullbacks. Because of that, we had to change our system. Doing that in just 2 training sessions is very difficult for any team in the world. I am really happy after showing them images at halftime where the spaces were and that they were much better in the second half. We dominated the chances, and at the end, you can say we could have won the game. They had 2 really great saves. He was then asked, only the second time Sparta hasn't won at home this season. Is that pleasing? It's a very important point. They're always really important away from home in Europe, but I am a winner. I want to win always. I want my players to have the same mentality, and I saw it after the game. They were disappointed they hadn't won, and that's a mentality we need for the next few months. In the circumstances, we can be happy with the point against a team that plays good football. The second half pleased me. The first half, totally not. We talked about that during halftime. It's not what I want to see from my team, but the reaction in the second half was really good, and we need to build on that. It's impossible to create a story in 10 days. I like that answer, I've got to say, Chris. I am a winner. I want to win always. It's about instilling that winning mentality in that squad, isn't it? I like that comment from Philippe Clement. Not satisfied with the point.
I think the other 2 lines that stood out for me, especially with the one about I don't want players to be mathematicians. I don't want them sitting thinking of all the permutations in the group. And when he mentioned, as you said there, Derek, mentioning the first half was nowhere near it. As we spoke about last week after his unveiling, he's a guy that's got a bit of presence. If he's not happy, I think he'll know that he's not happy. So I'm sure the squad were under no illusions about how he saw that first half last night. So I think there's a lot to take from aspects of the performance. And I think there's actually quite a lot to take from that press conference as well. You can tell a lot about a manager and how he handles different situations. And as you say, Derek, that line about I want to win every game. I think that'll do for a lot of the fans. That's the type of thing that they want to hear. He's not like over egging the positive points of, well, we had a couple of chances and we could have won. It's a good point. He knows that game was there to be won last night. As poor as Rangers were in spells of it, he knows that's a game that could and perhaps should have been won. And that has to be the standard. So you always aim for that. You always shoot for the moon. And I think that's an encouraging thing that we've seen from Clement so far. Every time he speaks, he's always mentioning that, and that's certainly a mentality that I know the club were impressed with, and going through the interview process, and that's something that he has actually taken into the first week or so of or first fortnight of his Rangers reign. So I think that's something that hopefully the fans will they'll be encouraged by.
Yeah, world's greatest DJ, just off the back of that, says, glad we brought Clement in, as he'd been within doubt a shout-in for the Ajax job. They're looking for a new manager, of course. Another defeat for them against Brighton last night. I've seen a crazy stat. They've not won since the 24th of August, which seems bananas, but there's no doubt about it. I think he would have been one of the managers linked to that vacancy. Interestingly, Dave Voss, the interim assistant manager there, which is quite something, but you're there in some state at this moment, Ajax. One player we need to discuss, as I touched on there, Chris, is Jack Butland. Top saves, as you mentioned, in that first half. The double save especially was sensational. Ian Edwards with the point here, he says, just give Jack Butland the Player of the Year award now. The guy is incredible, by far the standout signing probably for the last 2 or 3 transfer windows. Probably hard to disagree with that, Chris. He's been absolutely superb. Big gloves to fill, of course, with the Alan McGregor making way, but he's come in there and he's been superb so far. Would have liked to have had some more contenders for signing of the summer, but is what it is. I think that the challenge for Rangers, and we've already seen a bit of noise in a number of publications suggesting that interest elsewhere in Jack Butland. It'll be just keeping a hold of him because he's been superb, hasn't he?
they always say that medals and gongs aren't handed out at this stage of the season. I'm quite prepared to give Jack Butland Rangers Player of the Year already, as a guy says there. I think Seema is the only other one that's getting close to him in terms of performances so far. Even he is as impressive as he's been in the last few weeks. I thought again he was really good, put in a real shift last night. Even he is levels below Jack Butland. I feel like we're talking him up almost every couple of days.
I know.
That's because he keeps producing. Now he's as you said, Derek, he's come in with big gloves to fill, but he's gone a long way down the road to show that he has all the attributes required to come in and replace Alan McGregor. If he's still here when he's 40, I think a lot of people would take that, but I do fear the worst. I know it's something we spoke about. I think it was last week with Johnny, and there will be interest in Jack Butland. It'd be daft to say otherwise. You'd have your head in the sand if you said otherwise. I think it's something Rangers have always been aware of. Given his age, given his profile, given his quality, obviously, I think they are. I think they're fully aware that the offers may well come, and there may well be interest in him. But I think the best thing they could hope for is that they can put a winning team on the park and they look like challenging for medals. Because when we spoke to him right at the start of the season, you could tell how enthused he was about the prospect of actually having the chance to win something. It's not just a case of playing games for playing games' sake, or being in the Man United squad for the sake of being in the squad with no chance of actually getting anywhere. He fully understands what Rangers is all about. He gets the history, he gets the standards, he gets the demands. He's bought into all of that. And if Rangers can prove to him, look, we're going to have a winning team over the next couple of seasons, you will get your medals, you will get your big European nights, that then becomes a huge attraction for him to then stay at the club. If he feels, actually, I'm in the wrong movie here, the manager's not right, my second manager's not the right one, the squad round about me are just not at it, he then maybe thinks, well, actually, I'm as well off back down the road. So I think that there's a lot for Jack Butland to like and to keep him in Glasgow. But I think the most important one is going to be a winning team on the park. If they can get more players playing at his level, that certainly boosts Rangers' chances of putting a winning team on the park, because he's been a standout player. If a Rangers been one of the standout players in the league so far this season, and I say if we didn't have him, the situation that we find ourselves in would be a whole lot worse. So I think that he speaks volumes about how well he's done, and the fans have clearly taken him to their hearts as well. You just look at the comments coming in when we're talking about him. There's a lot of people are really, really in love, shall we say, with Jack Butland already. But I think that is reciprocated. So fingers crossed he's here for a long time. But I think that's only going to happen if it looks like the team is going to match his ambitions.
Yeah, I remember when he did arrive in the summer, it was a bit apprehensive, it's fair to say, because he hadn't played much football in recent seasons. He has been the backup and understudy at Man United and ditto at Crystal Palace. And I used to watch him a lot at Stoke City when he was coming through initially. He was superb, and then he sort of had an injury and his confidence was rocked a little bit. But Rangers have certainly got the best version of Jack Butland, and hopefully he can remain at Ibrox for a long time. Interestingly, he spoke to Rangers TV after the game last night, and he was asked his thoughts on the new manager. He says, really good. I think it's been a fresh start for everyone. Some boys needed it, and I think as a club we needed a change, which is obviously what the club felt as well. And he says there's a lot more to come from Rangers this season. He says, I've been impressed by the new manager and the way he carries himself and the points he's got across so far. I know there's a lot more he wants to work on, but he's conscious on giving us too much right now. I think we're taking on board what he's trying to get over to us and doing a good job of it. It's been a good start, and it's up to us to make sure that continues. I thought that was an interesting line there, Chris, saying that some boys needed it, and I think as a club we needed a change. Very telling.
Very telling, very honest, but very accurate as well. I don't think he's saying anything that people would disagree with. I think it's been evident for some time. It was evident for some time in the final weeks of Michael Beale's tenure that change was needed and that change was coming. I think every time Butland has spoken, he's always spoken really honestly. He's always spoken really well. You can tell that he's also got that presence in the the changing room. You can imagine him being one of the key leadership figures within that squad, and he then takes that out. And when he speaks in press conferences, or he speaks on RTV, or he speaks in the mix zone after European games, he's always just got that something about him. Again, that was something early on that became evident, that first press conference that he did. I actually had a piece maybe 3-4 weeks after he signed, and spoke to a number of guys that he'd worked with and coached. And one of the guys in that piece was Adrian Bevington, formerly of the FA. And he mentioned that fact of Jack always spoke really well, even at a young age. He recalled going to tournaments with him and asking this young up-and-coming goalkeeper to go and do like meet and greets and go and do press, and it never fazed him. He just had that assurance about him. He knew what to say, knew what not to say, but also knew what he wanted to say to get that message across. And that's something that I think he's carried on throughout his career. It's certainly something we've seen so far during his time at Rangers. So I think as people will perhaps jump on that in terms of a headline grabbing message. But as I said, I don't think he's saying anything that people wouldn't actually agree with. And if players are being honest and they are making those points, then fair play to them, because we just want players to be honest. We just want the players to give us that proper insight, and not just to give us cliches and banalities. So fair play to Jack for doing the interview and for doing it in the manner that he did.
Yeah, I remember, as I mentioned, I covered a lot of Stoke back in the day, and they played Derby in an FA Cup game. Derby put them out. They were a league below. And ironically, Frank Lampard was the manager of Derby, and Tom Lawrence scored for them. And he came out. He faced up to the media afterwards, and I thought it was quite refreshing, saying it wasn't good enough. Mark Hughes was going through a tough time at that moment in time. But Jack fronted up, and so fair play to him. And he does talk well. Lots of comments suggesting that as well. I do like listening to him. Let's move on. A lot of comments coming in as well about the other end of the pitch, Chris. First of all, Alan M. Star says, Derek, surely Scott Wright will never be in one of your teams again. Contributes nothing. Well, wait till you see my predicted lineups for the game on Sunday. That's for sure, Alan. No, he didn't do much when he came on, but I think it's a bit harsh on Scott Wright. I think he can contribute. Didn't do much last night, but he did more than a certain Cyril Dessers. Stephen says Clement will be considered a wizard if he can change Dessers around. Awful again last night, and the point being raised here from Callum as well. It says, what a difference last night when Dessers came off and Danilo came on. Can't disagree with that, Chris. What do we do with Cyril Dessers? I thought maybe if he would have turned a corner after his goal against Hibs, but again, poor last night. For me, Danilo is a starter on Sunday, surely.
I think that, to be fair to Dessers' first half, there was very little service for him. The Rangers were that poor. Middle to front, it'd been hard for any striker to make an impact and to get chances. But the point of the difference that was made when Danilo came on, you just can't overlook that. I think Danilo is definitely he's a better all-round striker. The manager spoke about him last night, about being this kind of killer in the penalty box. As I mentioned, I thought in the shot that he got away, unlucky not to score, and that would have been an absolute cracker if that one had found the top corner. I think he's now had a couple of games. I think it was 9 minutes he got at the weekend, about 15 or so last night. If he doesn't start at the weekend, he's surely in with a shout of starting next midweek. And then after that, going forward, I think it's just a fitness and sharpness issue. With Danilo now, there's no doubt that he looks the better striker. There's no doubt that he looks the better option through there. And I think everybody, or almost everybody, would have him in their starting lineup. Have you put him in your team for the weekend? Just before I go and talk up too much, is a curveball coming later on?
I'm not going to face the wrath of the support. Danilo will be leading the line in my starting 11.
I think that's a sensible call. But when you see the impact that he made last night, Rangers did just look a far more threatening side. I know the game had gone on. Sparta had fallen out of the game. So again, you can maybe make that point and say it's a bit harsh on Dessers. The bigger concern for me is Sam Lammers. There's a spell, 10 minutes in the second half. I actually forgot if Eric was playing, and I went to check if he'd been one of the subs. It just disappears from games at times. And I just don't see it for this guy who's meant to be the number 10 that can play these passes, that can cut open defences. There's just not a lot there, unfortunately. And these two guys have got a long way on the road to recovery to show they can do anything. I hoped and that Saturday might be the turning point for Dessers, that the new manager and perhaps a change of system would help bring out the best of him. He then gets that goal. We spoke well post-match. You're hoping they're just going to be that weekend spark there. Didn't really show enough last night. I wouldn't be completely surprised if he gets to start at the weekend. Again, if he does, I think it's just a fitness thing with Danilo. I don't think you can say these two strikers are fully fit, are fully good to go. I'm going to go and play Dessers. But Danilo is going to be the main man. But I think behind that, there's a problem with Lammers, and once other players are fit, and once Matondo's back in, once Tom Lawrence is back in, I don't think we'll see much of Sam Lammers.
Yeah, very strange signing for me. I don't know where he fits into this Rangers side. I don't know where he goes, incidentally. I don't know who's going to take him off Rangers' hands, but they should be looking for potential suitors come January, because he does not fit in this Rangers side. I've seen a few comments last night, perhaps maybe unfairly saying it's like playing with a man down, but you're saying, Chris, he's anonymous. He doesn't impact games. He should be influencing games and be that difference maker, given the fact that he's the outlay that Rangers paid for him. It came with a decent pedigree, but for me, another poor performance from him. And point here, since Lammers was non-existent. Alex Winter with a left field comment here saying, can we not try hypnotherapy for Dessers and Lammers? I'm being serious, by the way. I'm up for anything, buddy, if we get a tune out of these two. Don't care what it is, but at the moment in time, they're not producing. Dessers more than Lammers, you could say, is producing numbers at least, albeit we should be expecting a lot more. But the pair of them, I wouldn't have them in my team on Sunday. We never had Lammers in our team last night in our predicted lineups, Chris. It was a bit of a surprise, I think, to see him start the game. But he, alongside Dessers, was poor. Another player that's come in for a bit of criticism here. I'm interested to get your view on this. CGM 55. Raskin is another problem. First half, he was completely AWOL. Second half, he perked up a bit. But if he's wanting a big move, he should be running games like that. Of course, he has spoken in the past about wanting to play in the English Premier League. I have absolutely no problem with that, Chris. Every player that's playing for Rangers should, I'd imagine, will have ambitions of playing in what is regarded the best league in the world. But Raskin is an interesting one, isn't it? Because when he arrived in January, much fanfare, everyone was excited at seeing him in a Rangers jersey. Started off decent, and then it sort of was plagued by a few niggling injuries. This season, he's not quite set the heather on fire. I know he scored a beauty of a goal at the weekend there, but that aside, we're just waiting for that performance and waiting for him to boss games, which he isn't really doing at this moment in time.
He just never really seems to have got going this season. I think we all thought after that impressive second half of last time when he came in, it was clearly one of the brighter sparks, and what ended up being also another forgettable campaign. I thought people were just expecting him to step up a level this season and to go and kick on. It's just not quite happened. He also had that wee spell out of the team through injury. He's probably still working his way back up to full speed after that. I thought first half didn't offer anywhere near enough, but that could be said for so many. The Rangers defence found themselves way overworked because there was nothing there from middle to front. Everything that the manager spoke about at the weekend in terms of pressing from the front and defending from the front, and then that just wasn't there. So I don't think the defence were helped by the midfield last night at all. There just wasn't enough there. Second half, I thought it was better. I thought that running shot that he had late on, that's more like what we want to see from Nico Raskin. It's head up, it's being positive, it's driving on, it's getting. I don't think he's the ultimate box to box midfielder, but he clearly has that part to his game. He took his goal really well at the weekend, a nice strike. We need to see more of that from him. Not everyone's going to find the target, but I think even just having a shot from distance is something that Rangers don't do often enough. So someone in the squad who has that capability is going to bring something to the game. Raskin clearly has that. I just think we're just expecting that wee bit more from him, and that tells you how much the fans think there is to come. I think the fact that people are really a bit down on him at present is because we all know this boy's clearly got talent. He's clearly got something about him. As you say, Derek, he has spoken about going on playing for bigger teams and bigger leagues. I don't mind that at all. As you said, anyone who's at Rangers is here for a reason. It's because they're at a particular level or a particular stage in their career. If anyone sees Rangers as a stepping stone, that if they're then going to get that move, the club benefit because they've also turned in a high level of performance. The club benefit definitely because there's then hopefully a transfer fee in it. So anyone who sees Rangers as I'm going to be there for 18 months or 2 years and I'm going to do well and then move on, I don't have a problem. But you have to then do your talking on the pitch at the same time, and you have to actually produce the level of performance that's going to get you that move, that's going to get Rangers that transfer fee. So I think there's definitely something in Raskin. I do like him as a player.
Yeah,
he's good to speak to. I like him as a guy as well. But I just wish if he could step it up a wee bit over the next couple of weeks. I think and I hope that the manager will be able to get the best out of him because we know there is more to come.
Yeah, Gary Hillhouse with the point here. He says Raskin, like every other player, is still learning Clement's new style. Give him a couple of weeks, he'll be on fire. Let's hope so, Gary. A few other points before we wrap up. Incidentally, just a heads up, folks. Me and Chris, for our YouTube members, will be back with the weekly Q&A show just after the Rangers press conference, which is taking place at 10:30 this morning. It's a Zoom one, so we're heading back to the Zoom press conferences. Back in the day, of course, when Rangers triumphed in the 55 season, I'm sure it was we had a few Zoom press conferences, so hopefully that is a good omen. But yeah, the Q&A show will take place after that is done and dusted. So if you want to get your points across, me and Chris will get through as many as we possibly can. Before we wrap up today, though, let's get to a few other points that have been raised here. Aldo says, not one person has mentioned the fact that Davis was taking corners. I've got to say, I was surprised myself when I seen him heading out there and pinging the ball in, Chris. It was a bit of a surprise, and then I was thinking, who else is going to whip the ball in? To be honest, but Ben Davis taking corners. I think that'll be continuing on Sunday and beyond.
I would hope not, but I would like to. The first time we went to do it, you saw him going out and thought, nah, surely not, and then he realised, obviously lined up to take it, and then it kind of dawned on you that this was actually happening. One of the strangers takeaways from last night, not something I think will be a regular occurrence. I think if he plays it at the weekend, I think you'll find him in the 18-yard area when corners have been taken rather than out there. I'm not really sure. He was also one of the more left-footed players on the team sheet last night, so there was actually a reason for it. If you're going to play those out-swinging corners, obviously it takes someone that's capable of doing it. So I can kind of see the theory behind it, but it was a bit strange, and actually not the worst corners that I've seen from Rangers this season. Because
it found the man, so that was a bonus.
They did find the Rangers jersey, kind of, and at least they beat the first man as well. So any corner that beats the first man is better than most of the ones we've seen. But that's a piece for Josh to get into rather than for us. He's done throw-ins. If there's not a deep dive on Rangers corners and why Ben Davies should be taking them going forward in the pipeline next week, I'm going to be having words with the boss.
Yeah, Joshua, if you're watching, get cracking with that, buddy. Just on Davis, just before we wrap up, some praise for Mr. Versatile, Ben Davis. Derek says Maka played well in defence, putting some vital challenges in the box and took a couple of corners, he says. Yeah, I thought he was good last night. Listen, it was he was brought in to replace, of course, Borna Barisic, who was unavailable through injury. We'll get an update on his fitness levels when we speak to the manager shortly. But yeah, I thought he was good last night, Ben Davis. A good performance from him. And ditto, John Lundstrom, Michael Gray with the point. Lundstrom performance past 2 matches have been encouraging. What's changed? I think maybe just clarity from the manager, Chris. I think he has looked good in the last couple of games. And as I mentioned at the top of the show, that goal-saving challenge really earned Rangers a point. Him and Butland, I think, and Seema as well deserves a bit of mention as well. I thought he was really, really good last night as well. But John Lundstrom, hopefully he can continue that vein of form that he's in.
It's one of these questions people ask quite a lot with John Lundstrom, what's changed, and I'm not really sure, because he goes through these spells where everyone's on his back, you just don't really see it, and everyone wants him sold, and then all of a sudden produces a couple of performances. You think, oh, there is actually a player in there. There is actually a guy that would be one of the first names on the team sheet.
Yeah.
That tackle that he made in the first half was really something. I think his celebration said, "Oh, he like a fist bump and a roar to himself," because he knew how important it was.
Yeah.
It's just that inconsistency. I think, like a number of them, if you could turn out 7, 8 out of 10 performances every week, what a team we would have. It's just that, as Britton Bear says there, it's just that hot and cold nature of them. Whether we're ever going to get that out of them or not, who knows? That might just be John Lundstrom, the player. I think asking what's changed and why it suddenly clicks and then why it goes off again, only John Lundstrom will be able to answer that one. I think that's a tricky one. Hopefully the manager can get that type of performance out of him more often than not, because if you can get him going, and we know there's quality in other areas of the side, it does also set Rangers on a more positive path.
Yeah. Right, folks, that'll do us there. Before we wrap up, though, we'll just wish Stevie Clifford and Johnny McFarlane a very happy birthday. The pair of them are celebrating their birthdays today. So if you want to go and message them on social media, folks, then I'm sure they'll be absolutely delighted with that. So happy birthday, Stevie and Johnny. Just a reminder, if you want to subscribe to the Rangers Review website, we've got 2 offers on just now. You can subscribe for just £4 for 4 months, or you can take out a year's subscription for just £18. Head over to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe for all the details. A reminder that me and Chris will be on a little later for the YouTube members with our weekly Q&A show. Alan McInnes has just messaged in that late twins. They don't really look alike, twins, Chris. Could you see Stevie and Johnny being twins, perhaps?
No, I think that's a rather strange family dynamic if they are there. Just before we go, well on the shout outs, I need to give Josh a shout out for the big interview that he's got coming on the website tomorrow. Yes. I don't know if we're allowed to give the name away. We've spoken to a former Rangers striker who's given some really interesting insight into his short time at the club. We'll maybe leave the teaser and people can try and pick out who that particular striker is. But a really good interview from Josh, one that I was chasing myself, and I selflessly stepped back and let him take the limelight. So I urge people to go and read it and to go and get a look at it when it's out on the site tomorrow morning. Yeah, it's an absolute belter, folks. I'll give you a clue. He knows where the back of the net is, and we could be doing it with him right now up front. I'll leave it there. Okay. Right, we'll speak to you a little later on, folks. But thanks very much for interacting with the show as ever, and we'll speak to you later. Bye for now.